Hey everyone, let's make a mushroom soup base. Good morning everyone, welcome to the Radical Geek YouTube channel where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we upload videos, and on Sunday we host a live stream affectionately coined Coffee Talk where we brew a warm beverage, often pair it with a ketogenic recipe, and then chat amongst ourselves. So today, though, based on some conversations I've had online, a few in groups, a few in private, and all around, is we've talked about like soups and soup bases, and specifically mushroom soup has come up a few times, both in conjunction with keto chow or without. Today, I'm just doing a regular plain mushroom soup. And I'm sorry, my little dog is very upset because I have banned him from my little studio area. So you'll hear a little bit of howling for a few minutes, but he will stop when he realizes he's just going to have to go upstairs to work and be done with it. So very easy is that I have a bunch of ingredients, but none of them are too elaborate. I have, first of all, a blend of mushrooms. You can either buy an assortment of mushrooms at your preferred grocery, and then some groceries, like right now, one of the things that actually was pushing me towards this is that Kroger has packs of mixed mushrooms. It's a cremini, portobello, porcini, and then and some white mushrooms. And it looks like there's also some Whittier in there. So I have a little pile of fresh mushrooms. It's about 3/4 of a cup. This recipe, which is not really a recipe because it's a lot of the way I cook is throw stuff together until it tastes right. And so I've got quite a lot of it down, but you'll have to adjust to your preference. So I've got the fresh mushrooms, and then I've got my chicken stock or chicken bone broth, whatever you like to call it. Just so you know, bone broth and stock are the same thing. That's why stock turns to jelly. So really good for you. I use turmeric root, which is why my chicken stock gets really yellow. But that's a flavor profile that's up to you. We'll talk about stocks another time in another video. I don't want to get too elaborate. But I went with chicken because that's my preferred flavor profile. If you want yours to taste meatier, mushrooms already have kind of a meaty taste to them. Use a beef broth, a beef stock. Losing it today, every day really. I have a drink of water. The other secret to a mushroom base, and today basically I'm calling it a light cream of mushroom, but the other thing is dried mushrooms. These actually is just a mix of dried mushrooms. I found these at Costco. Normally, I would have gone to the Asian grocery and bought a variety of dried mushrooms in bags, but I was already at Costco and I saw that and I was like, good enough. This has yellow bulbous, portobello, oyster, and porcini. So I actually like all of those mushrooms, so it works out perfectly. But this is what gives my mushroom base the umami. I take these and I bulletize them and I make a mushroom powder. That is what gives this the big punch and really brings up the mushroomy flavor. So I'm going to get this rolling while I continue talking so that we can actually heat up the broth. I've got my heat going. I'm just going to put my broth right into the pan. Now, mushrooms pair with certain flavor profiles better than other. One of those is ginger. So of course I've got my ground ginger. I used about 3/4 of a teaspoon. And then I've got a 1/2 teaspoon each of salt and pepper. You may want more salt. that will be something for you to figure out as you taste and go along. So I'm going to go ahead and dump those in so that they can start melding with the stock. And then I'm going to go ahead and also pour in about half of this mushroom powder. If I put too little into my NutriBullet, it sticks to the sides too much and doesn't bring the powder to the center and get everything done proper. So I did a little more than I need for this particular broth. So I'm going to use about a 1/4 cup, which is half of this. And I go ahead and I put that in. And as you can see, I'm not doing anything crazy or measuring too much. But if you are doing some very specific tracking, you're going to want to do that. I weighed everything out beforehand, and I will get this mixed in or typed into the description. I'm just mixing it in right now. The mushroom powder does not initially completely dissolve. It stays in the broth, but it will help give it a little bit of texture to it, as well as the mushroomy flavor. The other thing I will tell you is if you do want to give it way more texture, is go ahead and at this point in time, sprinkle in about a tablespoon of gelatin, maybe a little less. I want to make it a little extra too hearty. But just sprinkle some gelatin in there and melt it in. It does mean that if you're making a large batch and you put it in the fridge, that it's going to solidify. Don't worry, that's all right. So now that I've gotten this in, let me see if I can bring it over and show you. Not as much, but sort of. You can see it's got a little bit of mushroom foam on top. Little teensy bits of mushroom flake in there, and you want that. It's not an unpleasant texture. And more will come into this in a second. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my mushrooms. There's a little bit of liquid from washing them off. And yes, you don't have to use any fresh mushrooms if you don't want to. You can rehydrate your same mix and make it all match. If you rehydrate, you can super extra boost up the mushroom flavor in your broth, because the water from rehydrating will pull out a bunch of mushroom flavor. So that is a nice option if you really want to have a super mushroomy flavor. I got mushroom powder on my table and had to dust it off a little bit. And you just let this come to a nice little boil. Now, I mentioned that the mushrooms pair with certain flavors, and I mentioned the garlic and the salt and the pepper. The other thing I have is, ginger. The other thing I have is garlic and a basil paste. You know, I like my pasted stuff. You can use minced or diced, and actually fresh basil would be nice in here, but I like it because it kind of melts it into the stock. And so it's just a preference. You use whatever you prefer. I would steer away from the dried basil for this recipe. Save your dried basil for something else. It would be a better done to have the fresh. That's the word. Sorry, it's going to boil over. I had to get the heat off of it for a second. If it becomes too boily, you just have to take it off. I'll turn it back on much lower so that doesn't happen. And I'm going to go ahead, and at this point, now that it's come to a boil, now I'm going to add in my garlic and basil. I didn't put them in right at the front. If you have fresh, you can do that, but I don't want to overheat my herbs and give them that bitter aftertaste. I like to just warm them up and melt them in. So again, back to your preference. You give this a couple minutes here on. Now, I know a lot of people don't love vegetables who follow my channel, but I love vegetables, and mushrooms are fantastic, tasty vegetable, unless you have problems with nightshades, in which case mushrooms are a no-go for you. And I will I'll make a different stock. Like I said, when we go through the stocks, I'll make something different for you. But I will definitely, we'll definitely do a talk about making some bone stock or bone broth, whichever you want to call it. I use my Instant Pot pressure cooker for stock, and we'll talk about if you don't have one of those, what you would do, how you would still extract that kind of flavor. So the reason I said that this was a light creamy sauce is because from here, if you want a heavy duty cream soup, you would add a lot of cream to it. You would add almost triple what I'm using right now. And right now I've got 2 ounces of Horizon Organic heavy whipping cream. The other thing is you're not trying to cook your cream. You're just using it to warm up and to thicken, which is why it's still sitting over here to the side. So what I'm actually going to do now is bring my towel over so that I don't burn my cloth. Turn my soup off. And it smells great. And now you stir in your cream. You don't want it to be boiling because you're not trying to scald your cream or anything like that. Now I will remind you is it doesn't turn white because it is a mushroom soup. And mushrooms have a dark brown coloration, so your soup will have that dark a brown look to it. Sort of like a gravy almost looking, except for not thick at all. And like I said, if you want it thick, add some gelatin to it. If you want it creamier, add way more cream to it. Just give it a minute to all come together. And that's literally all there is to a really awesome mushroom soup. It is thinner than a lot of people might be used to because we're used to commercial soups and things like that where they do add thickening agents. If you are someone who uses keto chow, you can, before you add the mushrooms, get a frother and froth in some of the keto chow to thicken it up, the savory chicken or the beef base, whichever. But my preference for soups is actually gelatin. It boosts the protein and it gives it a silky feel. So let me set this aside. I got a little clear dish for tasting to share with you. Now, maybe I should have cut the mushrooms up a little more. They're a bit on the large side, but I love that. So, here you go. And like I said, you've got your larger mushrooms. Try not to spill so you can see how it looks. Well, you're getting green screen effects, so it doesn't look as appetizing as it does in real life. Will tell you, I really like that this particular blend had the porcini in it because that's one of my favorite mushrooms. It's very steaky, a lot like the portobello. So, and maybe another time we'll do another mushroom recipe and I'll give you some mushroom facts, but this is just a Monday video, so I don't want to take forever. Let me give it a quick blow and a taste for you. I got a pepper bite though. It's so good. I'm sorry, I'm really thirsty this morning too, so like everything. It's really good. So that is it. That's a quick mushroom base. And like I said, if you want to make it a creamy mushroom, a cream of mushroom versus just this light cream base, double up the cream or even triple it and add in gelatin at the boiling stage. Have a great one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.